Today's video is going to be a lot more casual than my videos usually are. I'm not going to do any kind of tutorial or project or anything today. I'm just going to make a sweater. So there's this crochet sweater pattern that I keep seeing pop up on Pinterest, and I've actually pinned it a couple of times, I think. And I've decided that I'm finally going to actually sit down and make this sweater. So I have pulled up Pinterest here. I have a board called Crochet Clothing. And the pattern is the Crochet Cocoon Cardi, or the Dream Catcher Cardi, and the website is nedandmimi.com. And it looks fairly simple. It's basically just got a granny square in the middle, and then you kind of turn it on its side so it's a diamond, and then work. It looks like double crochet in like a rectangle around it, and then you kind of like seam it to make sleeves, and then add some ribbing on the cuffs and the collar, and that's it. So it should be fairly easy. It's also done with a bulky weight yarn, so that again is going to be super quick to work with. I don't often crochet clothing, so this is a bit of a bigger project than I usually do, but I'm hoping, again, because it's done with bulky yarn and in double crochet, that it should be pretty quick. It's a very wordy blog, unfortunately, as all blogs are, I guess. Yeah, so it starts with a granny square kind of thing. I guess it's not really granny square, but it's like circle square thing. Still scrolling. There we go. So I'm gonna do, she's got it in 4 sizes. So there's an extra small / small, a medium / large, XL / 2X, and then a 3X, 4X, 5X. So I'm going to do the medium / large size, and this is meant to be kind of an oversized, comfy, cozy type of sweater. So that's kind of the look we're going for. So it uses a 6.5mm crochet hook, which I have here, and then I bought, actually I have 6 balls of it. It came in 3 packs, so I got 2. So I've got this red heart yarn, and it's Hygge. I'm probably not pronouncing that properly, but Hygge, which is like a Swedish thing. I think essentially the idea is it means coziness. So anyway, so this is, where's the fiber content? It's 70% acrylic and 30% nylon. So I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work out, but hopefully it has a decent drape to it. And the color that I got is called Slate Blue. So I'm gonna tear this open. And it should be super cozy. It feels really kind of like silky, but it's got this sort of like fluffiness to it. So it should be a really cozy sweater. So yeah, I've got 6 balls of this. I've got my crochet hook. I will eventually get to the pattern here somewhere. She also has video tutorials. So if you want to follow along with me, I will leave the link to this blog / pattern in the description of my video. And then you can go to her website and find the links to these videos in the blog post. So yarn, for the medium / large, it uses 1125 yards, and I did do the math before I bought this. I'm not going to do it again now. You can figure that out if you like. But these balls are 212 yards each. So just doing the quick math on that, that's about 1,200, a little over 1,200 for the 6 balls. So that should give me more than enough. Other supplies, so 6.5mm crochet hook, which I already mentioned, and then tapestry needle and stitch markers. And then she's got all the sizing and measurements, abbreviations, notes on sizing, construction. etc. I'm not going to read through all of this right now. It's very extensive. Special stitches, adjustments. Okay, written pattern, finally. We're about 2/3 of the way down the page. Okay, so I'm gonna get started on the centerpiece, and I'll maybe show you a top-down angle just so you can see how I'm getting started with this, and then I'll just kind of check in every once in a while and let you know how it's going. So yeah, gonna get started. First thing is to find the end of my yarn, which I always struggle with for some reason. And then this happens. Why does this always happen? If you have a better method for finding the yarn in the center, let me know, because I always struggle. Okay, I'm already like covered in blue fuzzy stuff, so this is gonna be a little bit messy, I think. So it's starting with a magic circle. And then chain 3. And then 15 double crochet, slip stitch to join to the top of the chain 3. 15 double crochet. All right. Okay, circle in the center is done, and then round 2. What are we doing? Chain 4, double crochet in first stitch, chain 1, double crochet in next stitch, and repeat. Okay, first thing already about this yarn is that the little fuzzy bits seem to want to stick to each other and get tangled up, so that's not ideal. All right, I'm just gonna continue on with this. There is, how many more rounds? I'm not sure upon first glance, but there's a few more rounds to the circle, and then you turn it into a square and then start working rows off of that. So yeah, I'm gonna keep working on this, and I'll check back in when I've made a bit of progress. Lighting. It's kind of a weird time of day and I'm backlit. Anyway, I've done the first 4 rounds, so that's what my circle's looking like right now. I got a little bit confused by the instructions, so I ended up checking out her first tutorial video for this, and it was very helpful if you decide to make this and get stuck, I would definitely recommend checking out the video. She's also Irish, so she has a wonderful accent too, so it's nice to just listen to her talk and explain how to make it. So far hasn't been too difficult. I just was a little bit confused about where to start a row, but I got that figured out. And I think even if I do mess up a little bit, you're not really going to be able to tell because this yarn is so fuzzy. It kind of covers any mistakes, which is nice. So I'm just going to keep going with this, and I'll check in a little bit later. As you can probably tell from the time-lapse portion, I had some issues with my yarn. It got super tangled, and it turned out that the center bit that I pulled out was totally separate from the rest of the ball. So I don't know why it was in two separate pieces, and it's not like it was ripped, like the end of it looks cut. So anyways, I just balled up the inside bit because it was totally knotted and it was driving me crazy. So should go a little smoother from here on out. So just doing a check-in, I have completed the center panel, and I had to actually redo the entire thing. Well, I had gotten through the first 7 rounds, and the pattern said at that point it should be about 10.5 inches in width. So I measured mine and it was only about 8 inches, and at that point I realized I had grabbed my 6mm crochet hook instead of my 6.5, and I think my stitches were a bit too tight as well. So I frogged the whole thing and I switched to the correct size of crochet hook and redid the whole panel. At this point, it's gonna be doing several rounds of just double crochet, so we're kind of past the interesting point here. So yeah, the next, I think 7 rounds are just doing double crochet all the way along, and then just doing chain 3s in the corners. Oh, I got a cat at my camera still. Okay, so I'm just gonna go ahead and do those few rounds, and then I'll check back in at that point. So I've just finished round 14, and this is what my sweater is looking like right now. Of course, I'm standing right in the light. So this is going to require some blocking because you can tell that it's pulling in more in the centers than it is in the corners. Will definitely require some blocking. But other than that, I think everything is good. I took some measurements and everything seems to be lining up more or less with the size it should be according to the pattern. So I think I'm on the right track, and I also counted all of my stitches in the last row and I have the correct amount, so that's all good. So the next step right now is I've already got it kind of turned in a diamond orientation, so it's not a square anymore. And then the next step is to work off of the sides. to elongate those out, and then those will then get folded over to make the sleeves. That's where things are at right now. So I will get started on the sides and I will check in a bit later. Okay, so I've got a bit of an update. I have done the one corner. So I finished off the middle section, and then the next step is to kind of widen out the right side. So you have it turned so that it's sort of a diamond shape, and then you do a few rows kind of like down the two sides to widen it out that way. And then from there, you work on one of the corners. So I've got sort of the bottom right corner finished. You kind of just work back and forth along the one side, reducing the stitches on either side. So it kind of forms a triangle. So you just kind of work back and forth until you're just out of stitches. So it comes to a point there. And then the next step will be to finish off the other corner on the right side. And then I'm assuming after that you switch to the left side, widen that out on the two sides, and then do the other two corners. So I'm just gonna continue on with this. And again, it's just double crochet the whole way. Nothing too interesting is happening at this point. So the whole rectangle is now complete. Finished off all of the corners. So the next step is to block this, and I don't have a proper blocking surface, but I'm gonna lay down a couple of towels and pin this to that, and then I've got a spray bottle to spritz it with. I did measure this just to make sure I was kind of within ballpark of where the sizing should be, and it looks like I'm pretty close. So I'm gonna have to stretch it out just slightly, but for the most part, I think my sizing is pretty good. I think in addition to pinning this around the outside, I'm gonna also pin just kind of the center diamond shape because my stitches in that area are a little bit tighter. So I wanna stretch that area a little bit more than the corners. Because the center is tighter, the outside is doing this kind of like ruffly thing. So I'll do the blocking today, let it dry, and then another day I'll go in and finish this up. The next step after blocking is to seam the sleeves together, and at that point I can try it on and see how it fits. And then I believe the only other thing to do is just to add the cuffs and collar. Blocking came out fairly well. I think the center is still a little on the tight side, but I'm not going to worry about it too much because I think it's going to just stretch out more with wear and it's not really noticeable or anything. So the next step then is to fold in the corners like that, and then you just kind of seam up to a certain point, leaving an opening for the sleeve. So I'm going to work at doing that, and then I can start on the cuffs. Okay, so I have this seaming done. Obviously, I still need to work in all of the ends and everything, but this is what it's looking like at this point. Obviously, it looks a little weird with a sweater on over a sweater, but I think the size is good. So far, it's shaping up pretty well. The pattern had a couple of different options for sleeve length. You can do, right now it's hitting me kind of at the elbow. So if you wanted to keep it more of like a crop sleeve, you could do just kind of a short little cuff. But I think what I want to do is the longer sleeve option, just to make it extra cozy. So that is going to be the next thing that I work on. At this point, I'm happy with the way it's coming out. Yeah, the pattern on the back is cute. I think the only thing with using this yarn is that because it's fuzzy, you can't really see the design as well as if I'd used a regular yarn, but it's super soft and comfy, so I'm happy with it. So the sweater is now finished. I did lose a little bit of footage just when I was kind of finishing up the sleeves, so I want to talk about that for a second. So I had mentioned previously that I was doing the longer version of the sleeve. So to do those, it was essentially just doing one round around the opening of the sleeve in single crochet, and then you work a chain. In this case, it's 25 stitches. So you just kind of work back and forth off of that chain all the way around. And that's in single crochet back loops only, just to give it this kind of ribbing texture. And then the collar that I did is essentially the same thing, just with fewer stitches. So I did 10 stitches wide instead of the 25 that I did on the sleeves, so it's not as wide. And the pattern actually gives 3 different options for doing the collar. So there's the one that I did, which is kind of the simplest one. There is one that only has the collar going down kind of to, I don't know, about hip height, and then tapering down, and then there is kind of just nothing around the back. And then there is another one that has ribbing all the way around, but it widens out to create kind of a lapel. So it gives you more width that you then fold over to use as a collar. So again, I just went with the simplest version. So I'll put this on now and give you an idea of what it looks like. So it's super cozy, and I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. So Again, this is the back. Sleeves are nice and long. And you can't really see from this angle, but I'll give you another angle in a second. It's nice and long in the back too. It's with the ribbing on it, it's long enough to cover my butt. So I'm very happy overall with how this turned out. The pattern was relatively straightforward. And again, if you decide to make this yourself, I would definitely recommend checking out her video tutorials as well. I found that really helpful. There were certain parts of the written pattern that weren't super clear as I was reading them over, but just looking at her video tutorials really did help. So thank you for joining me on this little sweater project journey. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to give the video a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't done so already. Please let me know in the comments down below what project you would like to see me do next. I don't have any other big projects planned just yet, so if you have any ideas, feel free to share. But that is all I have for you for today, so thank you so much for watching. I will see you again soon. Bye.